Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, A New Paradigm in Bioprocessing Intelligence to Accelerate Time to Market, jointly presented by TetraScience and Körber. Really appreciate you taking your time to join us today. So with that said, it's my great pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Christoph Herwig is a bioprocess engineer, and he obtained a PhD in bioprocess identification in Switzerland. During his employment in various industries, such as with Lonza, he was deeply involved in the design and commissioning of large chemical and biopharmaceutical facilities. From 2008 to 2023, he was a full professor for biochemical engineering at the Vienna University of Technology. In 2013, Christopher founded Exputech, which is now part of Körber, an international technology group with around 13,000 employees. Christopher's primary focus is on PassX Savvy, the pioneering data science software for the biopharmaceutical life cycle. Today, Christoph serves as Senior Scientific Advisor at Körber. We're also joined by Ken Fountain. Ken is the Vice President of Scientific Applications at TetraScience. He is the business owner for Tetra Catalyst, in which his team partner with scientists and IT organizations to accelerate replatforming and re-engineering of scientific data to the cloud. He has also held positions at Vertex Pharmaceuticals, Waters Corporation, and Genzyme Corporation, now part of Sanofi. Ken has his Bachelor's of Science in Biotechnology and his Master's in Chemistry. Thank you both for agreeing to spend your time with us today. My name is Stephen Farrell. I'll be moderating. I am the VP of IT Governance and Software Assurance Compliance Path Ideagen. We're a global reg tech. We help SaaS companies transition into the life science space. So with that, I'm going to talk very briefly about what we're going to cover today, and then we'll get right into it. We are going to talk about pain points in bioprocessing. We're going to cover the possible solutions for those, talk about the specific joint solution and value proposition from Tetra and Körber. We'll have a case study, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So with that said, and Christoph, I'm going to ask you to get us going with a question here. So from your perspective, what are the current challenges in bioprocess development and manufacturing, specifically related to data integrity initiatives within Pharma 4.0?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, for this question and the introduction into this webinar. Hello, everyone. Yeah, this question is, I think, very important and touches multiple dimensions. I think we are all aware that biopharma is lacking information, and the current challenges are, for example, that the time to market is still very slow. The full life cycle for a new product from discovery to development and further on to process validation and its license to manufacturing lasts here at least probably 6 to 10 years. And it is accommodated with very high cost of up to still $2 billion per successful commercialization. That's probably one thing. Secondly, once you have the process in manufacturing, we still face very old process designs with non-optimized productivity and high batch-to-batch variability. And we need to get those processes robust, and therefore we need a very sound science CMC control strategy, which is normally, let's say, just emphasized in ICH Q12 guidelines, but we don't know how to really do that. And especially, I think there are challenges in getting these control strategies also implemented for intensified or also continuous bioprocesses. In those cases, we also need to have control strategies implemented in real time. And of course, having said that, all the data with that. And then we come actually to the real, let's say, showstopper here is, of course, the digital transformation, getting the data available. And digital transformation is perceived as a central enabler to increase productivity, manufacturing flexibility, and product quality. This is all summarized in the Pharma 4.0 initiatives as pushed by the ISPE, and also we as Körber, we drive that actively here. They define data integrity and data maturity as the main enablers to successful digital manufacturing and accelerated product lifecycle. However, up to now, we are missing data integrity, and the result is that the FDA and the EMA currently issue lots of warning letters accordingly still.
Thanks, Christoph. And Ken, just to kind of pick up on that, why do you think these pain points exist today?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it picks up on Christoph's last point around data integrity, data maturity. It's our strong opinion, and this is backed by a lot of data and polls done throughout the industry, that the main reason these pain points exist is that the scientific data is fragmented across thousands, or if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of silos, and it's unsuitable for analytics and advanced AI and ML type modeling. And that really causes a whole cascade of problems for the biopharma industry. For instance, because these data are fragmented, it requires them to be manually transferred from where the data is generated to ultimately where the data has to land. And that's time consuming and error prone. There's also a variety of data sources out there. So there's continuous data that comes from bioreactors, as well as discrete analytical data that comes from measurements of quality attributes downstream. All of those are today manually joined together because of data silos, and they're not reused. A lot of the data is also not all that well contextualized, and so therefore it is very difficult to search that data due to the misalignment of the data formats coming from different proprietary formats. That includes things like naming conventions, other metadata around naming batches and samples, and so forth. Because the data is in silos, it can't be easily shared. It can't be shared internally within the same enterprise. It also can't be shared very readily with external partners. And oftentimes, if you can't find something or it can't be shared, that just leads to repeat experiments and lost time. And finally, and very sort of topical for today, is being able to visualize even simple visualizations and doing simple lightweight analytics on the data requires users to transit the data on USB drives, use multiple Excel sheets, and that really prevents the sort of timeliness of visualization of various data streams in the same view, so that scientists and process engineers can make fast decisions.
Thanks, Ken. That was a great outline. So that follows nicely into our first poll question, folks. So what are your biggest pain points around bioprocessing data today? So just ask you guys to have a look and pick one and submit, and you'll be able to see the results in the chat. So, Christoph, Ken, you've given us a really deep understanding, I think, of the pain points. So with that said, Christoph, if I can pick up with you, what would you say are the possible solutions to this problem? What are the requirements to be successful?
Yeah, I was waiting just for this slide, I think, just to really show what we mean here. I think we all know that data is the new gold, right? All the globally biggest companies center their business on data, and they make lots of money with this. And the biopharmaceutical industry also, of course, has to do this. I think that's clear. But in order to solve these pain points, we need to use the data in a holistic manner, right? And let's say if we would look at this kind of slide here, and we look at, let's say, a product agnostic solution, we have to do multiple things with the data. Okay, so that means, for example, we have to import data from the different dimensions along the process chain. If you see that here on the left-hand side, the unit operation, from upstream to downstream, to fill and finish up to the patient, on the one hand. And on the other hand, we have to import all the data along all stages of the product lifecycle, from process R&D up to manufacturing. I think we have these two dimensions, and we have to, let's say, import and get a grip on the data holistically. But be aware that the data shall not just be stored in a data lake or historian. That is absolutely not enough. It is of utmost importance that we give context to the data. As Ken already mentioned, we need to have really contextualized data. Okay, and this one, of course, it can include outlier detection and unit variable names, etc. But I think it also goes much beyond of that. It's identification of process phases, of process events. It's about conversion data from data to information. So we need to derive, probably you know that from chemical industry, we have to derive, let's say, independent entities which are independent of scale and initial conditions, for example. And then you see here centrally on that slide that the data are completely heterogeneous. We have to have routines to cope with data of different dimensionalities, time series, different frequencies, and we have to make sure that we can unfold, for example, time series, or also to extract features from spectra in order to make all these elements finally digestible. Of course, all these contextualization steps can be done by SMEs, but we know we are limited on that, so we need automated functions during data import, data analysis routines, or we can also use ontologies for that. Important is, in our opinion, that's why we are having this webinar here, is that we should have no interface between data management and the data analysis, because else we have the danger of breaching data integrity. Hence, I hope I could show you that this is a very product agnostic approach which we are going here. We have to have, as a very central technical requirement, a seamless data import, management, contextualization, and data analysis in one place. Yeah.
Makes sense, Christoph. Thank you. So Ken and Chris, if a solution did exist, what would the solution look like? What would it be able to do?
Yeah, so I can take that one first. I think the solution we're talking about here that Christoph just outlined, the ability to bring various data from various scientific instruments and lab informatics systems throughout the bioprocessing product life cycle and surfacing that in a way where scientists and process engineers can visualize it. I think it overcomes many of the issues we just talked about in the beginning of this webinar. Overcoming manual transcription of data, which leads to higher data integrity and leads to data sets that are analytics and AI ML ready. And I see from the poll question results that most people struggle with data contextualization and search. So having a way to properly label the data with things like what site was this run on, who ran it, on what therapeutic candidate, what batch, those automatically become sort of filters on which you can start to create visualization and analytics, which was sort of the second biggest problem that people noted as part of the poll question. So having a solution like this, I think, really achieves the ability to reveal new insights into the data and the relationships between data sets. Those could be data sets that are run on a single batch. They could be data sets that are run throughout the life cycle. So a data set collected in the R&D stage versus the process validation stage, for instance. It allows to have data, AI, and ML ready, basically to optimize the process a lot faster, as well as give process engineers intelligence into the sources of variability, which is something that's not really available today. And that's built off of both historical data and new data coming in to a solution like this if it existed. It also leads to the ability to build high fidelity digital twins for bioprocess scale up, tech transfer, and ongoing process verification and validation. And finally, if all of the data are sort of in one place and it's in a scalable sort of framework, that data can now be searched by anyone from anywhere in the world. So that could be different laboratories searching across other laboratories' work, different sites, as well as the potential to seamlessly share data between sponsors and CMOs and CDMOs. Christoph, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you mentioned the main central importance of contextualization here. I think from the poll, I think that is the main hurdle still. There are tools which allow import and probably tools doing analysis. But let's say the trigger to connect these two is the contextualization part, I think.
Fantastic. So obviously, Ken and Chris, you've done an awful lot of collaboration on this subject, and could you share with us the joint Körber Tetra solution to the issues that you've outlined?
Yeah, sure. We'd be happy to. So we feel we've between both Körber and TetraScience, we've created a solution that looks a lot like the one that we just sort of went through in terms of the ideal state. And we really think it's a paradigm shift in bioprocessing intelligence. And let me sort of explain what I mean. So we have the sort of data collection and replatforming and re-engineering aspect, which is sort of TetraScience's expertise area. So this is really about making scientific data analytics and AI ready. And when I speak about scientific data, I don't just mean data coming from scientific instruments. It's also the experimental context and design that might come from something like an ELN or LIMS system. It's the analysis results that come from the derived data, right from the raw data coming from scientific instruments, as well as data that comes from external collaborators, whether those be CROs, CDMOs, or CMOs. So all of that data provides the context needed and presents certain challenges, obviously, in the current way of doing things, which is a lot of manual movement of this data back and forth. What we're doing here at TetraScience is we are replatforming all of that scientific data into one scientific data cloud. We are then re-engineering that data into a substrate we call TetraData, which is the customer's data made to be liquid, compliant, harmonized, and actionable to make it ready for analytics and AI/ML tools, such as the one that Christoph is going to talk about with Körber's PassX Savvy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just telling you a little bit about the overall approach here. I think first you see here how we link to the TetraScience system, and then we have here three main elements which we finally focus on. So Körber is providing a holistic SaaS data intelligence suite, which is called PassX Savvy here, and the data into the platform is provided by the TetraScience platform. So here we do the three elements here. Number one, we do data contextualization. As I mentioned above, here this features algorithms to get data of different format, and then we can play in all kind of ways with them. So we know, let's say, everything about the data, independent when they were done, where they were done, in which initial conditions they were done, or at which scale. I think that's very important. Okay, this is an SME could do that, but we do that in an automatic way. I think that's number one. Secondly, the second part of the advanced data analysis, we do, of course, process predictions here. You see lots of different applications which we have here, process predictions, running digital twins in real time. We can do CPV, continual process verification. We can do a correlation analysis between CPPs and CQAs. We can, like this, develop complete CMC process understanding. We can detect process deviations and see the impact in real time. So it's also a solution for finally real-time control of process performance up to a real-time release. And then probably just to also go to the last part here, we do teamwork and results sharing. And like this, we allow, let's say, a collaborative nature. And we do that via automated report generation. This one can work inside of GMP, also in the development environment, of course. And you can do that inside of your organization, or also with your partners, let's say, because you're not really working alone. Okay, but probably just to come back to that, probably also mentioning a couple of, let's say, additional benefits of this approach. Let me probably just go back to that a little bit to show you what the solution can really do, also from the Pharma 4.0 perspective. I think that would be important to mention. Okay, you see this complete solution here now. We have a seamless solution, and we have a paradigm shift, in my opinion, if you see this completely. So where does it lead to? Number one, we avoid any doubt of data integrity. If you just go back to the slide, we avoid any doubt in data integrity. And this is no matter if we are in post-development, post-characterization, also where, let's say, we are probably not subject to Part 11 compliance. But we have a complete, consistent interpretation of the Pharma 4.0 guidelines. I think that's number one, what you see here as a result. Secondly, we increase data quality by avoiding any manual errors. So we have enormous speed up in data handling. Okay, we will free up SME from stupid copy paste of data, and they can concentrate on what they are paid for. I think they are mainly paid for their data analysis. Okay, and this of course applies to all activities along the product lifecycle. And then just when we think about the data analysis side, as Sevi is proposing that here, we have the potential to use all data for holistic data analysis. Okay, analyzing interactivities between operations, not only looking at single unit operations. We can link data between different stages of the product life cycle. And this one applies, of course, to sound iterations in post-characterization studies through CPV. So not only trending, but also real continuous improvement work, which is a real driver, in my opinion, for CPV. Yeah, sorry, just to give you an overall view of the impact of this solution here and this paradigm shift and all the potentials which you can finally draw from here.
Thanks, Christoph. That was great. Ken, anything to add there relative to the sort of broad benefits? I think Christoph did a great job of outlining it.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that all of the advanced sort of capabilities of the PASIC Savvy application, which I think are very, very good tools to complement what scientists and process engineers know about their process inherently, is all required. All of the prerequisites to that is having really well structured and curated data. And so without that foundation, it's very difficult to build these types of applications on top of that data, because for all of the sort of challenges that we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar here. So once that foundation for AI ready data is built, doing a lot of these types of advanced analytics to help scientists and process engineers improve the process and do tech transfer much faster and with much higher quality is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So that brings us to our next poll, folks. So how do you currently solve scientific data management analytics with bioprocessing data? So you can feel free to enter your response, and again, that will show up in the chat if you're curious as to the results. So
in the meantime, Stephen, probably I can just also project our solution to the data maturity. If you just go to the next slide, probably it would make sense to just also give the attendees a certain heads up on the, let's say, not only the potential of our paradigm shift solution, but also on the benefits if it comes, let's say, to Pharma 4.0. And I don't know if you're really aware of the data maturity model. Here you see the different steps of the data maturity. And this is, of course, emphasized by Pharma 4.0. And when you see the different levels here, I think it's just good to mention that we actually fulfill all kind of levels. So we are not only looking at the visibility level, saying, okay, hey, what's happening? It provides also insight why it is happening, ensuring a holistic understanding of critical aspects like CMC and process transparency, for example. And then even further, when you look more to the right, the solution offers predictive capabilities, okay, foreseeing future events and real-time decision-making. And then, of course, it extends, Ken already mentioned AI and ML capabilities. We have self-optimizing capabilities, which allow the process to self-optimize, but also the models to self-optimize, while upholding data integrity at every stage, even starting in early process development. So actually, you see that this kind of solution is really squeezing out all kind of gold out of your data. So you can really say you have made the most of the data, which are normally just laying around. And then, of course, probably just I want to comment on this, Paul. Not surprising. Not surprising that Excel is still dominant. However, we have also seen that, of course, there are also solutions outside of Excel. However, then we have island solutions and not this seamless integration like we are showing here in our paradigm shift model.
Thanks, Christoph. And this is more than hypothetical, guys, right? This isn't something that that you've built. You've actually gone through a case study, a proof of concept with a top 25 biopharma company. Can you tell us more about that journey?
Yes, I think I can take that first, that you see what we actually have done with a top 25 global biopharmaceutical company. It actually dealt with biopharmaceutical process development. Here we faced lots of data from high throughput devices, upstream process development, downstream process development, as well as from offline analytics, LIMS, ELNs, everything. And the pain points were very close to what we have described actually above. The company tried already some in-house developed tools to avoid Excel, but due to the reason of the complexity of the data sources, but also the limited know-how across the team to maintain Excel and the need to have enhanced network capabilities, so collaboration possibilities, they finally actually returned to Excel, and all the problems we mentioned above were actually still unsolved. So they tried a way, and then they finally need to go back to Excel. And that was our starting point. So in this way, the goals were very clear for us. We wanted to establish a global repository for seamless data collection, harmonization, and access. And we aim for comprehensive data contextualization, robust visualization tools, efficient data analysis to replace the existing Excel-based workflows. And then we wanted to provide one user interface for connecting and sharing data from various sources within the biopharmaceutical data landscape, so a collaborative nature, right? And then we wanted to publish, archive all these data, and the final objective was to also do comprehensive data modeling with all the data we have now available, where we actually were able to link data from different sources and from manual entries, and finally to construct coherent ontologies and derive CMC process understanding, and that finally also using hybrid modeling. So you see, it's really from, let's say, collection until the modeling part, all in one platform.
Fantastic. And Ken, can you build on what Chris said there and maybe just explain in continued detail how the requirements were met?
Yeah, sure. The only thing I would add to Christoph's statement around sort of the pain points of this particular customer and their requirements is keep in mind this is a very large biopharmaceutical company with thousands of scientists globally, as well as other data coming in from various CDMOs and CMOs. And so what was really important for them was to provide, as Christoph said, a single interface where any scientist could go and look at what had been done historically from a bioprocess development point of view, as well as understand what the results of those conditions were. For instance, if the bioreactor was set up at a certain pH, certain nutrient level, what was the resulting, quality profile of the drug molecule and the impurity profile as well. None of that was easily searchable before. So we wanted to provide that single interface for all scientists globally who are working on the same asset or possibly similar, structurally similar assets to be able to access all of the data so they could, not have to repeat experiments, but build upon the experiments that have already been run. So how we ultimately solved that challenge was with our joint solution. I'll sort of explain sort of the front part about getting all of those data sources together. So what we did was we, sort of replatformed and re-engineered scientific data from a variety of work streams that normally happen within bioprocessing. So these would be things like bioreactors, qPCR instruments, plate readers, HPLC, which is used heavily, and UV-Vis type equipment. And so we bring all of that together. And then what's really important as part of this process is appending labels and attributes to that data. So those labels and attributes are essentially identifying features and context and metadata that can help explain where the results came from. So that could be done at a project or a site level, site or department level. So these would be things like the location where the data was collected, the site, the user who collected the data. And then we get a little bit more fine-grained and we append labels to things at the sample and project level. So compound IDs, methods that were used, batch identifiers. These all become labels and attributes and filters that the PASIC Savvy application can use to improve the dashboarding experience. What happens next is once that data is all replatformed and curated into the scientific data cloud, PASIC Savvy then uses the API endpoints to monitor the TetraScience platform for newly ingested files and data and retrieves the labels associated with those. And finally, the interface within PASIC Savvy allows users, whether they're scientists, process engineers, or scientific leadership, to select the data they want to visualize based on the specific data fields that's available to them within the Tetra data. Christoph, do you want to explain a little bit more about what happens once the data gets into PASIC Savvy?
Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah, thanks for the explanation. It's a seamless approach, right? And what is Savvy doing with the data? Okay, so Savvy provides full data analysis capabilities. This includes, of course, statistical data analysis, but also fully implemented workflows for hybrid modeling. I think that's the one thing. And I see this as a complete solution here. And together with TetraScience, provide a very efficient and seamless data management, data analysis platform for comprehensive CMC process understanding and holistic control strategies, which is, let's say, the focus in this POC and the focus of proper CMC process development, process characterization studies. And then, of course, we were able to disseminate those outputs via automated report generation for the use inside or outside of the organization. And then probably we can also look at some benefits. I think we have explained mainly the solution. Else, audience, please ask. Yeah, if you understood the main concept. I could probably just also mention a couple of, let's say, benefits which we finally got from this paradigm shift solution to our partner here. And they are threefold. I think one is the time savings. There is at least 50% productivity gains from automated data collection. We, by this, of course, reduce a lot of errors by eliminating manual handling, transcription of data, right? And of course, additional long-term data trending helped proactively flagging OS events. And last but not least, we have faster market entry, and probably this is the biggest, let's say, business gain here for our partner, that our approach speeds up process development and tech transfer to manufacturing by 6 to 12 months. And this is, of course, leading to an extra, let's say, 3-digit million revenue due to accelerated market entry and extended market exclusivity. I think that's the biggest benefit. However, already the benefits just on the data management side, on the left-hand side, and on the reduced risk is, of course, paying off for the solution.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ken and Christoph. That was really, really thoughtful breakdown of the benefits. Very interesting product and a great case study. So we got one more poll for everybody. And the question we'd like to ask you is, what aspect of the solution presented would be most beneficial to you? So you can answer that. And again, the results will pop up in the chat. So with that said, folks, I'm going to open the floor to questions. I'd love to hear your feedback, and it's a great opportunity to bounce your thoughts off Christoph and Ken. So you guys probably saw me writing some things down, so I might get the ball rolling if that's okay, Ken and Christoph. So first one for me, how long does it take to execute the case study? So you talked a lot about data moving, so moving that data to the cloud, generating the analytics dashboard. Like, what was the rough timeline to get from start to finish?
I can take that question. I think the main issue is always defining the goals. And I also don't believe that we should, let's say, spend too much time to be just focusing on just all the data. We have to get all the data in. I think the important is, okay, what do we want to achieve finally? What shall be the analysis result? What shall be the core plot which we want to produce? What kind of thing we want to file in the IND BLA filing at that point? And then we crawl back. Okay, then we say, what kind of analytics do we need? What kind of contextualization do we need? What kind of data sources do we need to actually get this done? Okay, so you see, I crawl back from there because, let's say, formerly, probably companies spent millions in order to get all the data just in a hub, and then it was not clear what to do with that, and then they spent a lot of money, and the real fruit of all the money spent was probably not directly visible. So I recommend to turn this and so invert this and first looking at the core plots and what you want to do. Then you crawl backwards and you say what kind of data and what kind of contextualization you actually need. Ken, anything to add here?
Yes. So those are all sort of how we diagnose what needs to be done and the time frame. For the specific case study that we presented here today with one of the top 25 biopharma customers, we did it in more of a sort of pilot type of mode. So more of a proof of concept. We did this on the scale of, say, like a handful of different instrument types. And between the ingestion or replatforming and re-engineering of the data and the sort of ability for PassX to query the platform was in the span of about 2 to 3 months. That's how long the pilot lasted here. Ongoing, obviously, a lot of these the timing requires these sort of integrations to be productized. So where there's productized integrations, obviously the onboarding is a lot quicker. Where there needs to be either revisions or additional integrations built for different lab informatics systems or laboratory instruments, it takes a little bit longer. But on average, this pilot lasted, pilots last about 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, and probably just to add, I didn't answer your question, Stephen. It sometimes takes longer to identify the goal than the actual execution. That's actually what I wanted to get to. Once we actually get to the goal and we assist in identifying or defining the goal, then the execution, as Ken said, is straight to the point, and it's a matter of months. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you both. So we have a question from the audience. This one is near and dear to my heart. Comes from Kelly. So Kelly asks, can you please describe how the platform addresses audit trails and electronic signatures along the way? Does it require that each data source is 21 CFR Part 11 compliant?
So I can start with that one because the process starts with data replatforming from scientific instruments into our scientific data cloud. So we do provide a standard GXP package, which contains all the documentation set that you would expect. So verification, validation, documentation package. It also includes multiple environments, test and production, as well as development. As far as the capabilities of the TetraScience side of the solution, we are ISO 9001 certified, SOC 2 Type 2 certified, as well as ISO IEC 27001 certified. So we go through regular audits both internally and by the industry and our customers. So how does it address the audit trails? Everything that is done to the data within the platform receives timestamps and signatures, so it's traced. And even if that is single raw files that have multiple result files, those are all tracked and associated together. So there is a traceability there. Does it require each data source to be CFR 21 Part 11 compliant? Generally speaking, if that's the way that the customer is collecting the data, depending on what stage they're in, our platform treats the data the same. We just make sure that we are providing full traceability of what's happened to that data between where it was originally collected and where it ultimately lands. In this case, the PASIX Savvy application for analytics. Christoph, you want to speak to the PASIX Savvy side?
Yeah, probably. I think let's say it's one solution. Let me go to two aspects on that. Yeah, Savvy itself comes as a Part 11 compliant system. So we have actually two levels of Part 11 compliant checks and making sure everything runs well. The software itself runs according to the V model. We don't have to reinvent GUMP here at this level. And then, of course, the next level is the interface qualification, which, of course, we are needing to do here. And, of course, in our partnership, we have possibilities to do that seamlessly here from Tetra to Savvy. But, of course, it needs a proper qualification and documentation according to GUMP. I think that's one thing. The second item which I wanted to mention is that we shall be probably also thinking about which use cases really need full Part 11 compliance. In many discussions which I'm doing with clients, then probably for some data analytics, it's not really needed. We always think it's a must, but for some cases, it's probably not required. So in this way, we assist also in our projects to see where it is really needed, where shall we take this additional effort, which is feasible, there's no doubt, but where shall we really go for that at the beginning, or where do we actually first start, get the fruits, probably also in a non-validated environment, having this system as a recommender tool, for example, with sound analytical results, and then feeding that back like that, and probably without Part 11 compliance. But technically, yes, to your answer. Yeah.
That's that's
Stephen,
great. Thank you.
Stephen, just to jump in, because I know Kelly can't come off mute, and maybe we missed a nuance there. The other thing to address here is if the source system contains audit trails and electronic signature capabilities, you can actually configure the platform to only trigger on certain events. So if you wanted to have a rule where you could only bring in results that had a level 1 or level 2 sign off, for instance, you could do that, or you could bring in all of the data. So there is the audit trail coming from the source system, from the scientific instrument, if it's enabled. That type of information is certainly capable of being collected. But then there's the audit trail produced as part of engineering the data from the vendor proprietary format to the vendor agnostic format. That is the sort of first answer I gave you, but I wanted to just come back around and close the loop on if the system itself has audit trail capabilities. Yes, we are collecting that data, and we can trigger off certain events there.
That's great, and I think you guys spoke to something that's really important. You mentioned GAMP, Christoph, and I had the opportunity to be one of the contributing authors for the second edition of GAMP 5 that came out recently. And one of the focuses, folks, was about critical thinking and making sure that we're not sort of blanketing everything with Part 11 and really understanding your workflows so that you're isolating those areas that are required versus those that aren't, because that can free up things from a process perspective. So really refreshing to hear that you guys have that same line of thinking. So actually, just to pick up kind of where you left, Ken, Kelly had a follow-up question that I think parlays pretty nicely into what you were saying there. And she was wondering, can you bring in data from instrument maintenance or scheduling and production distribution systems?
Yeah, so the short answer to that question is yes. The caveat is that data has to be in a format where it can be automatically collected. So a lot of times instrument maintenance, I know in my previous job, we had logbooks, physical logbooks sitting next to all the instruments and equipment. And that's where the instrument maintenance was logged. If there is a trail from an electronic point of view that tracks maintenance, then we can certainly ingest that. From a scheduling production point of view, we have not yet productized any integrations there, but we've done plenty of proofs of POCs around that area, things like MES and LES type systems. So the short answer is yes there. One thing I wanted to add on to this question is a lot of the information that comes from these systems, as probably the audience knows, contains a lot more information than just the raw measurement information. Contains information on who ran the instrument on what day for how long. And so you can start to leverage the platform to do predictive maintenance type exercises. So you can start to trend performance of instruments or equipment over time, or even consumables over time, even methods over time, to see, to give sort of advanced intelligence on, when things could go wrong, such that you could, schedule your maintenance more appropriately. If it's needed more or less frequently, you can start to build in those predictive capabilities just based on the fact that you're taking in all of the information that the systems are providing, not just the measurement information.
I can probably, yeah, thanks, Ken. I think I can probably add on that. Number one, yeah, the data model can take all of that data here, Kelly, as you say. That is no problem. In Savvy, we have the possibility to add, let's say, scheduling to the. We organize the data in a process flow sheet. Okay, so you have CPP, CQAs, but you can also have raw material data as well as production data accordingly in the in this data model. I think that's number one. And having said that, when you think about, let's say, classical maintenance and predictive maintenance elements, you're probably just listening to one data source and you try to decide. Okay, here with our solution, you can now link the different data together. And I think that's exactly what I mean with, let's say, squeezing out the gold of it, because now you can link, let's say, a certain probably maintenance requirement to, let's say, raw material. You can link it to previous unit operations. You can link it to certain process conditions. You can really understand why this is actually needed, this kind of maintenance. This kind of, let's say, contextualization or holistic analysis across the different data sources is the real value. And I'm really grateful for your question.
Thank you both. So just to kind of round us out, I have double-barrel question. One, could you give us a kind of sense of the cost of the solution? And also, if we wanted to see the solution in action, how would we go about that?
So I can start. So from a cost perspective, it really all depends on. So there's no flat straight answer for this. It really all depends on sort of the number of systems coming together, the amount of data flowing through the platform. So that is certainly, if you are interested in knowing more about either the cost or seeing the solution in action, you could certainly contact either one of us for a free demo of the solution, and at that time we could start to ask or discuss the factors that would go into sort of the pricing of the solution. So sorry, there's no straight answer, but there's a different cost structure, obviously, if you're doing this on a very small scale versus an enterprise wide scale across all of your bioprocessing labs and manufacturing groups. So Christoph, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think I have 2 points probably on that. Also addressing the question of Matthew here in the chat here. I think that goes in the right direction. What is the timeline and what's the effort, etc. First, we have possibilities to link lots of different middlewares or individual devices directly via out-of-the-box solutions into our solution. I think that's important to mention. There's a list of them. If you want to, let's say, link certain SCADA systems, if you want to link certain devices, chromatography systems, etc., this is out of the box. Then, of course, there are probably systems which are probably more customized, and then we need to talk about the effort. Or in between, there will be configuration, and a little bit of configuration is always needed. And then, of course, this depends on the amount of data sources. As I just mentioned, you better go back from what you really need from the data analysis perspective, and then you see what kind of data sources you really need. To the pricing from our side, I don't talk about price, I talk about value. And I think when you have seen the benefits here, you should see that already, let's say, the reduced risk and the manual errors and the automated part of data import already pays back in the first month. So when you think about a subscription solution here and what you pay here compared to the saved hours per collaborator, this already pays back in the first month.
Fantastic, and thank you for picking up Matthew's late-breaking question there too. Appreciate that very much. folks, we are at the end of our presentation today. I do want to take a moment to thank Christoph and Ken for their time and the excellent presentation. I also want to thank all of you for joining today. I would encourage you also, if you have questions that come up afterwards, please do reach out to Christoph and Ken. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them and continue the conversation. And with that, I will wish you all a very good rest of your day. And again, thank you for your time.